Yes, we are live. We are back to our, of course, live masterclass series for people who lead people and teams. And thank you for being here on day 8, where we discuss the power of community for high performance. So, let me remind you of a few things that we discussed so far. So, we talked about the whole cycle of high performance, preparation, performance, and now we are in the recovery stage. So, we looked at high performance from the perspective of high performing athletes. And today, we are talking about the power of community for the high performance cycle. So, for those of you who maybe for some reason didn't catch all of the sessions, make sure that you sign up on the link in the description and catch all the replays and all of the handouts and all of the resources. So don't worry about missing anything. And we're actually now we're on day 8, and tomorrow we're going to be on day 9, which is the final day, which I can't believe that this whole masterclass series has gone by so fast. So let's look at the power of community. And the question I want to ask you, and it's a question that I've asked before: who's taking care of you as the leader of your team, as the manager of your team? It doesn't matter if you're managing a team in a large organization or if you're managing a small team as a small business CEO. The point is, there's so much pressure on you as the manager, as the leader. There's so many expectations of you leading and managing and motivating and engaging everybody. And at the same time, you're also part of a team. You're part of your own team. Don't forget that. And you're also part of the larger team in the organization, if it's a larger organization. So, who's taking care of you? And this is a great segue to the community aspect of it, because there are some aspects or some challenges, some situations that you can talk to your team about, that you can go and talk to your manager about. There are some challenges that maybe you can even share at home with your partner. But there's also bits and pieces of what you do every day in your team management and leadership that you can't really talk about with your team. You can't go to your manager or to your peers and discuss them. And you don't want to overload them, and you don't want to overload your partner at home because they have their own issues to talk about. So, what about you? Who's taking care of you? And I mean it, like, how are you taking care of yourself? And where do you go? What's your community? What's your support network? Where's your support group? Because that is important in any kind of high performance. Because of this, because, and I've said this before, if we look at the definition of high performance, it's the ability to deliver over a prolonged period of time meaningful, measurable, and financially sustainable results for the people or causes the organization is in existence to serve. So I have a couple of keywords here, and let me know what you think. I'm looking for your comments or maybe even your questions, right? Anytime you have a question or a comment to make, please feel free. Put it in the discussion here. But the keyword, the first one, is prolonged period of time. And then we have a few more: meaningful, measurable, financially sustainable results, right? We are talking about something that's sustainable. We're not talking about overnight success, because that's not sustainable. And we all have our own examples of high performance, either in the sports world or entertainment world, of people who were successful overnight, but then they only have maybe one hit that reached the top 5 or top 10, and then that was it. Nobody heard of them anymore. So, what about that? What about long term? And this is where I'm going to make it bigger so that you can also see it and think about it for a while. All right. So, what about that? What can we do to sustain this long term? Right. And I have another one for you actually that I want to talk about the power of community, because that's the whole point of today's discussion. And I love this quote from Simon Sinek, who says that a community is a group of people who agree to grow together. So, when we're talking about the power of community, we're talking about the power of actually growing together, finding that tribe, finding your tribe where you can grow with other people. And it doesn't mean that it's just one tribe. You can have several where you grow different skills, where you grow differently as a person, as a professional, as a human being, right? So, what are your networks, your communities where you are growing and learning and performing? Because, and I found this, there's an article that I will be sharing with you. So, again, click on the link in the description so that you're getting all of the replays, all of the handouts, and all of the resources that I'm sharing, because I will be sharing this article as well with you. But I wanted to share this quote from the article. You're not the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. It's way bigger than that. You're the average of all the people who surround you. So take a look around and make sure you're in the right surroundings. I wanted to make it bigger so that you can see this properly, right? So I think this is a powerful quote, and I think this talks about exactly that, the power of community and why it is important. Because here it is, community, maybe they don't, communities might not affect what we do, but they do influence how we do it. Because the reality is we don't operate in isolation, right? We all exist and we're connected with each other. And now even more so, because imagine you might be watching this from, I don't know, from another part of the world. I'm in Canada, you're somewhere else. I'm in Canada, East Coast. Maybe you're on the West Coast. Maybe you're in the US. Maybe you're in Europe, Asia, Australia, who knows, right? Anyway, thanks for being here. But the whole point of it is we're so interconnected right now. And this thing is just growing. So we haven't been operating in isolation before, even much less now. We're operating and we're connected and we're interconnected. We operate in networks. So obviously, the community is going to have such a huge impact on how I do things. And it's going to be my local community that perhaps influences the way that I do things. So I'm going to do things maybe one way in a local community, and then in another that's global, I might be doing things differently. And we talked about that when we talked about managing teams and creating the cultures. It is about that. It is the culture that we operate in that has such a big influence on how we operate. So obviously, the community is going to have such a huge impact on my level of performance. So here's a question for you. Should you run your team at work as a community sports club or as a high performance athletic program? And I know that we're talking about high performance athletes and the high performance cycle from this perspective. But also, what I would like to look at is the community sports clubs. because there's a lot that we can learn from the way that they operate in, because that brings the balance between that level of high competition, which you get in a high performance athletic program, and the kind of more healthy competition and more balanced that you get in a community sports club. And I found this quote by Bernard Letendre, who is the head of Wealth and Asset Management Canada. I smiled because I can't help but pronounce the French name in the French names in French. So, um, but I found this quote which sounded super interesting, and I wanted to share with you because it speaks a lot about the power of community sports centers. And here's what he says: that's just the way things work in a dojo. Helping beginners is a collective responsibility of all the people who are more experienced. In fact, the more experienced the judoka, the greater the responsibility. And this, my friends, is so powerful when we talk about communities and sustainable high performance. Because what you can use in your team, wherever your team is exactly this model, which is so successful. And if you look at successful organizations, which to me means people who are happy to work there and they become ambassadors for that company, for that organization, so that they don't even have to recruit because people just come because they just go there because they want to work there because they hear the good stuff and the good things about that organization. That to me is a successful organization because it's all about the people. Remember that quote, 65 of startups that 65% of startups that fail don't fail because of technology or systems issues, but because of people issues. So there, and this is a recent Google research. So yes, it's all about the people. And here's what you can do. Create a space for trial and error. And this, the model of a dojo, call it my dojo team or my dojo team model, right? And that means that, yes, this is the profile of a learning organization. And I can't be more excited about it because learning is everything. Learning is movement from moment to moment. That's my favorite quote on learning. So, and with a learning and development background, yes, obviously that makes sense why I have a favorite quote on learning. But this really is so powerful because this is how we learn, through trial and error. It's not about failure, because failure is when we've tried something, it hasn't worked, it hasn't given us the results that we were after, and then we stopped. We didn't learn anything from it, we didn't tweak it, we didn't change it, we didn't do anything with it. So that's failure to me. Trial and error, it's an absolute must in the process of reinventing things, of creating things, of moving on, of existing from one day to the next, from 1 year to the next. We don't do things today as we were doing things 2 years ago, right? So we need to create, and you as a team leader, as a team manager, you need to create that safe space for trial and error. At the same time, you look at yourself as a team member right now, you also need a safe space for trial and error. You're not alone, lonely at the top. We talked about that. That's not the case anymore. You don't want that. So you think about this in terms of yourself and your team as well. You need team members to feel heard, understood, and valued. Remember, we discussed about that when we talked about emotional intelligence, day 1. If you missed it, go back, check the link in the description, go back and watch that. Because that's powerful. That's one of the basic emotional needs that we all have. And for a team, This builds enormous trust and engagement and motivation, and people will contribute and give you their best, and you will be giving your best. And the whole point of this, you will actually feel good about working together in that same place, even virtually, right? You're sharing the virtual space, you're sharing the work in that project, and you're enjoying it. Support for new members, and that comes with mentoring. So you need to have a kind of formal or informal mentoring program. Coaching and mentoring as a manager, as a leader, that is essential. And it's essential for you to get coaching and mentoring as a leader. It's essential for you to also offer it to your team members. You can also use reverse mentoring, where people who are maybe older on the team, they will learn from people who are newer to the team, or literally the people who, I don't know, are in the, you can combine different generations, and we talked about that when we talked about managing your team. So you can go back and rewatch that, but basically you can pair them, a boomer with a millennial, or a generation X with Gen Z. And that's reverse mentoring, where the older generations will learn from the younger generations as well. That helps you build a learning culture and really look at learning as a habit, not as an event. It's not a workshop that we go to. It's not an online event that we go to, that we attend. That's a habit. We learn every day through sharing, through observing, through mentoring, through coaching. All of the shared experiences are going to become learning experiences. And that helps you build healthy competition. It's and what I mean by healthy competition is going to be that model of competition where it's not about dog eat dog. It's about how can we build on each other? How can we complement each other? How can we complement the impact that we're making on the business? And we talked about that when we talked about managing teams, and how different people have a different kind of impact and contribution in the team and in the organization. So you want to check that one out. But that is the kind of competition that you want to create, where people are going to be happy to share. They're going to be happy to contribute, instead of thinking, oh, if I share this, they're going to steal my idea and they're going to pretend it's theirs. That's not an environment that you want for sustainable high performance. And then focusing on helping people become the best that they can be. And that can be, whatever that may mean for them. And we talked about different kinds of personalities, different kind of working styles, different kinds of impact, again, in managing your team in that session. So we want that. The more I understand how I work and how my style is going to be different than yours, the more we understand how we can work together better to get the results that we're after. It's like a sports team, right? It's the same thing. But what this does and what this helps us with is it gives us the intrinsic motivation that we're all after. Because the reality is, you as the leader or as the manager, you cannot motivate your people with that kind of extrinsic motivation forever. That's not sustainable. External rewards are going to work as much as they will work. After that, there comes a point where if I don't feel that I contribute to the best of my abilities, I will not feel motivated on a long term. So here's a question to you. Where's your growing community? And you might have all of these, or a combination of just a few. Or maybe I didn't even put it here. Maybe there is something else that you call your growing community. Whatever it is, you can add it in here. And you can also put it in the comments and let us know, where is your growing community? Because, yes, the truth is to make learning a habit, learning means growing, right? So that means that we're going to use social media platforms and groups. We're going to use even the online fitness communities if they're under lockdown now and you can't go. Or online learning groups. Basically, this is what happened with the massive online open courses. We've seen a lot of interactions in all of those discussions in the online learning groups. Even here, right? Online with live streaming, you will be getting questions and comments and people participating. Schools were growing communities, obviously. Your workplace is a growing community, even if now it's just virtual, but it is. Family, right? So, all of these, think about how you are helping other people in that community grow, and how does that community help you grow as well. Because it's not about being uncomfortable and getting uncomfortable and getting used to being uncomfortable, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's not about that anymore, because what are we talking about? We're uncomfortable every day. It's not about thinking outside the box, because again, what do you mean the box has left the building? It doesn't exist anymore. There's no more box. So it's not about that anymore. It's about knowing where I want to get, how much I want to grow, and what I want to develop. It's all about that. I wasn't even comfortable with the expression of, thinking outside the box, because that meant that there was a box in the first place. Well, it is if we think it is. But now it's not. It's gone. It's from one day to the next. We can create something, and we can create our own version of who we want to be. We just want to know where we want to get. So depending on what skills I need to grow, what skills muscles I want to grow, I will find those communities that help me grow. Also, think about your team and how you're helping them grow and how they help you grow. It is a two-lane street. It's not a one way. It's all about that. That's the power of community in high performance. And you can create your own personal high performance team. And you can get just as much as high performing athletes have their own team of people, the nutritionist, the therapist, the coach, the trainer, you name them. They have a whole team behind them to sustain their high performance long term, right? You need to know who your personal high performance team is. And it's a blend of technical knowledge and updates, people management and leadership skills. Like for you as a team manager or team leader, that's essential. Self-care routines. We talked about that yesterday when we talked about self-care for high performance and how important it is on a long term. So if you missed that, again, go watch it, because you're going to get some ideas of what you can do and how you can create your self-care routines. And continuous improvement, that's what it's all about. Learning from all of the work and experiences, all of our life experiences, right? Work or family, it really doesn't matter. We can learn from all of them, right? There's no stopping us from learning once we've decided that we want to learn something. Masterminding, networking. But the whole point of this is that how you apply this is going to be influenced by the culture that you operate in. So you can have a full team of coaches, trainers, physiotherapists, therapists, nutritionists, you name them, right? By deciding, hey, this is where I want to go. This is what's going to help me. This is the support I need. This is the information and the knowledge that I need to get. Okay, so this is my team that I'm creating for myself. But it all will depend how you apply all of the stuff that you're learning It all depends on the rules of the game. So the culture, that's it. The culture gives you the rules of the game. It's, think about it. It's the same thing as if, let's say you were a football player and you were training and learning and preparing yourself for football games. And then you actually find out that you're supposed to play tennis. Now, all of that, the technical knowledge and the preparation and everything, just a part of that will apply to the new rules of the game, right? Maybe your physical condition and the fact that you're very athletic, and that will help you um, with being able to play for a longer period of time, but that doesn't mean that you can actually play, right? So the culture is going to be super important because that's going to give you the framework in which you can apply all of these. And the beauty of it is that you, as a team leader or a team manager, you can create your team culture because it's how we do things around here that makes us feel successful. That's the culture. It's the how. It's not in the what, it's in the how we do things. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what works, what doesn't work. So, communities influence the full cycle of high performance. And we talked about it yesterday when we talked about self care. But it is so true that a community, so the culture, will influence the preparation, the performance, and the recovery stages in the high performance cycle, right? Because it all depends on how I can apply everything that I need to do depending on what's possible in my environment. It's the same thing if I want to train for running outside. I will have to actually find the right environment where I can train, regardless of whether, you know, it's snowing or super cold outside, or I need to find ways. If I'm in the desert and I want to train for a marathon, that might be pretty difficult. And I will be applying different techniques and different ways in which I can do it, depending on what that environment allows me to do. If you're training for a marathon in a country like Canada, where it's super cold during wintertime, you want to get some options there for yourself to be able to also train during the winter. So all of that will depend on the framework that helps you do things one way or the other. And on all of the three levels that we were talking about: emotional, physical, and mental, right? So, my call to action for you for this point is, first of all, get support and ask for help. We know that there's a lot of pressure on you as a team leader, as a team manager right now, to come up with solutions. You're taking care of everybody. You're taking care of your team at work, you're taking care of your team at home, you're taking care of everybody. So ask for help, because the truth is nobody holds the recipe, the one general recipe of success right now. So it's time to empower and create an environment where you empower the team leadership. So allow that power of team members to take the helm depending on what needs to be done on your team. Those people, they're professionals, they are experts in what they do. That's why you have them on your team. You're also part of the team. So the more you get help, the more you're able to offer help. Don't stay in isolation. Find your tribe. Find your tribe in your team. Find your tribe outside the organization, because right now it's so crucial for you in your development and in your growth as a professional. It's so crucial for you to get different perspectives and fresh ideas so that you can take all of that changed perspective and take it in your team and engage them in creating conversations, in creative conversations, and in innovative conversations. That's how you come up with all of the best ideas that you might want to start implementing right away, because they're so great. So get the support where you feel heard without being judged. That's why ideally a group outside of your organization or family or friends is, sometimes it complements them and it offers a different kind of support. Make sure that you keep networking, obviously. Share challenges, yes, as well as successes. Think about small steps. It doesn't have to be anything absolutely game changing as a success. A small step, a small success during the day or the week, celebrate it and share it. Brainstorming and getting peer support, that's so crucial, because that makes you feel like you're not alone in this, and there are other people going through the same thing, having the same kind of challenges, and you can help them and they can help you. Whatever you decide to do, work out your skills muscles like you work your body muscles, and that means regularly. Okay, remember, we can't expect that we're gonna go to the gym once a year and that's it, we're gonna be fit. It's the same thing with the skills muscles, right? You'll never hear about somebody who just started running who will win the gold medal in the Olympics tomorrow. It's just not possible. You need to give yourself time. Growing takes time. Nothing grows just like that. Okay, so for more resources, and I told you I have the article that I mentioned, I have some recommended books, the handout, and more useful links for you to check out. So sign up on the link in the description and get all of the previous sessions and resources. Now, if you want to find a tribe of people who are either mid to senior managers or small business CEOs, who might have similar challenges to yours right now as you are managing and leading a team, you might want to try out the Lead for Legacy League. And this is a global online program for management and leadership transformation. And we have weekly group coaching and Q&A and strategies. You have online courses in management and leadership and assessments and strategies. We also invite guest speakers, and you're talking to peers from different industries and different countries as well. So that gives you a whole other perspective of what people find is challenging for them, but also about solutions that they found and that maybe we don't even think about them because we're operating in our environment only. So again, remember, it's the culture is sometimes limiting us to doing things one way or another, and then we're not even thinking about what else is possible because that environment simply doesn't help us. So get out there, come join us, and see how this works for you. This goes on month by month, so you can decide if this is helpful, and I think it is, and you can stay for longer. In any case, if you're interested, DM me or message me, ask me a question about it, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. And with that said, see you for the last day of this masterclass series where we talk about the importance of higher purpose in team engagement and motivation. That's on day 9. And I'm really, really looking forward to having you here, and checking out what we can do to engage our teams and motivate them, and that on a long term. Okay. Thanks for being here, and I'm looking for your questions and comments. In the meantime, I will say goodbye and see you for day 9. Bye for